Hello everyone, NGPhil here, aka Stealth, and this video is up as a supplement to my How 3-Run Burst Works video, and its purpose is to kind of answer some frequently asked questions that I get a lot on my video. And one thing I would like to point out, thank you guys so much. You've made this really one of my favorite uploads, if not my favorite upload as it is. This thing, the video, it took off and was really well received, and I thank you guys. I couldn't have done it without you. Alright, so now let's move on to some of the questions that some of you guys may have asked. And we'll start off with, does the burst cam reset when you release the trigger? The answer is no. Let's say you were to switch it to burst and fire only, say, one round. What would happen when you release the trigger early, you'd only get the wheel to engage into the first shallow notch. The next pull of the trigger would yield you 1 or 2 rounds, depending on how fast your trigger is, or how fast your trigger finger is. So let's say you hold it for the next full 2 rounds. You only get those full 2 rounds. You won't get 3. And I've had some people kind of ask, what happens if you just tap it? You'd get the same effect. You'd only get 1 round being fired. Let's say you fired 2 rounds, the same thing. The next pull of the trigger would yield you 1. For example, let's go ahead and fire 2 rounds. Then I'll release early. And you'll see that the trigger just drops into this index on the trigger face here. Next pull of the trigger, you essentially get a semi-auto effect in burst. So you kind of get the idea. As long as the trigger is held, it'll only fire 1 in that condition. You release, now you can fire the full 3. And 3. There you go. Then the disconnector latches onto the hammer on the interface, and releasing the trigger will cause it to release it from here and drop the trigger up, or move the trigger up by releasing it, and then the hammer will drop onto the interface of the sear, like that. That little bit of friction right there, or that contact, is enough to keep it from dropping. And that's where it rests on any AR platform. Another question I get asked is the burst cam or the burst disconnector disabled in semi-auto? And the answer is no. The only thing that's disabled is the auto sear. You'll see it doesn't rotate to full engagement with the hammer. In fact, I set this up a little bit sloppy. It shouldn't even be moving at all. Basically, this little wing here indexes on the selector axle, and it shouldn't even move at all. The only time it moves is if you're in burst or on a full auto lower. Full auto. That's the only time it moves forward enough to catch the hammer on the auto sear interface right here. Alright. Another question I get asked every now and then is, does the semi-disconnector still exist on a burst-capable lower receiver? The answer is yes. It's basically there, exactly the same as full auto. Ignore those sounds. It still exists, and it looks almost exactly like the full auto semi-disconnector. The only difference is it's basically half as thick to allow the burst disconnector to exist in the same place as well. So what you get is the same effect. You get semi-auto. Okay. So I think that pretty much answers everything. A question I actually had asked, which was rather interesting, is if I could figure out a mechanism that'll allow a resetting cam while still allowing a burst to be allowed, and make it modular, I guess, to allow it to have maybe 2-round, 3-round burst, maybe even 4 or 5. And before this person had even commented, I had already worked on such a mechanism. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Okay, so I was asked to demonstrate a mechanism, or figure out a mechanism that would allow what you see here. Multiple modes of burst as well as semi and automatic. And it can be done. This is actually a design that I worked on that would work in real life. And what this does is it bypasses a lot of the issues, or all of the issues, that the Eugene Stoner design has. It automatically resets, so let's say you're in 3-round burst, you only fire 1 round. The next pull of the trigger, if you release early, will still allow you to get a maximum of 3 rounds, whereas 5-round burst, you get a maximum of 5 rounds regardless of where the cam's at, because it always resets. What's interesting about this is it's a lot simpler than the Eugene Stoner design in practice, and it's also more reliable and less finicky. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate some of the effects it can pull off. So semi-auto, you get the idea, just fires once. 2-round burst, it fires twice. 3-round burst, it'll fire 3. 4, it'll fire 4. And 4. We're at 5, it'll fire 5 rounds and then stop. And then auto will just keep going until you run out of ammo, have a malfunction, or release the trigger. 5, 6, 7, and you get the idea. What's awesome about this is that it resolves the issue of inconsistent trigger pulls between modes or when the cam is operating. It gets rid of all of that. Basically, every single mode has the exact same trigger pull weight and travel. And let me go ahead and display what the mechanism looks like. By the way, this is my design, and it's actually relatively simple. I'm not going to go too much into depth in explaining it, but the idea is relatively simple. So let's say I want to do 3-round burst. Just put the selector on 3-round burst, and then just let it operate. Semi-auto, I'll fire 1 round. Five round, I'll fire 5. And you get the idea. So let's go ahead and disassemble this. I'm going to pull out this pin, rotate this, remove this spring, remove the count rod. Then I would press in on this tab, rotate the selector past safe, remove the count rod limiter, and remove. In real life, you'd pull this out through the selector hole, basically. Just pull it straight out like that, like towards us. And there you go. And then you just drift out these pins and remove the parts. Fairly simple. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you have any other questions, just let me know. If I have to make an FAQ too, I will do that. But as long as you guys are getting the information you need, I'm happy. And thank you guys so much for the support and love that you've been giving me on this video, or this series of videos now. When I uploaded it, I wasn't sure if it was going to even do very well, if it was going to even get noticed at all, and it actually was really well received. I'm very surprised that there's a lot of people out there who are actually interested in the mechanics behind firearms. Well, anyways, you guys have a good day.